Chris here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my TBR for the Queer Lit Readathon. So this is a month-long readathon hosted by Kathy, Rachel, and Rogan. I'll have their channels and announcement videos linked in the description below. And all of the prompts are based on this bingo board. So I'm going to be trying to get a complete blackout, and I've picked out books for each of the prompts, and I'm going to quickly run you through what I've chosen to read. First up, we have Banned Book, and for this, I'm going to read Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. I don't know much about this, but I remember seeing it and it being on my radar, and then I completely forgot about it, so I'm very excited to be checking it out in June for this readathon. It says, that book, it was about two women, and they fell in love with each other, and then Lily asked the question that had taken root in her, that was even now unfurling its leaves and demanding to be shown the sun. Have you ever heard of such a thing? 17-year-old Lily Who can't remember exactly when the question took root, but the answer was in full bloom the moment she and Kathleen Miller walked under the flashing neon sign of a lesbian bar called the Telegraph Club. America in 1954 is not a safe place for two girls to fall in love, especially not in Chinatown. Red Scare paranoia threatens everyone, including Chinese Americans like Lily. With deportation looming over her father despite his hard-won citizenship, Lily and Kath risk everything to let their love see the light of day. So yeah, just based on that description, I can kind of see why this book would be banned. I think it's stupid that it was banned, but I can see why it ended up being targeted. Very, very curious to see what happens to the story. I like the historical element of it. I haven't read many historical fictions lately, so this should be a nice change of pace. And I'm very, very excited to show this book some love, considering that there are people attacking it for ridiculous reasons. Next up, we need to read one of the two group reads, and since I had already read one, I decided to go with the other, and that's Finna by Nino Cipri. And the way this has been described is that we're going to be following some queer characters who work in a not an IKEA, who end up finding portals in the not an IKEA that leads them to other places. I don't really know anything else about it. I don't really want to know anything else about it. It's a quick, short read. So very excited to check this one out as well, because I had never heard of it before, but I love the fact that the descriptions keep saying in a not an IKEA, or definitely not an IKEA. So that was kind of funny and made me want to pick it up. Then we needed to read a book about trans joy, and I went with Cheer Up, Love and Pom Poms. This is another one I never heard of. There is a spreadsheet that was linked in the announcement videos that had a bunch of different categories with a bunch of different queer recs, and this was one for trans joy. And I definitely leaned on this and the story graph page for this readathon for ideas, because I'm always looking for more books, and I wanted to make sure that I was hitting every category, because sometimes it can be hard to know going into a book whether it is going to be applicable to the prompt that you're talking about. So this one is obviously a graphic novel, and it says, Annie is a smart antisocial lesbian starting her senior year of high school who's under pressure to join the cheerleading squad to make friends and round out her college applications. Her former friend, BB, is a people pleaser, a trans girl who must keep her parents happy with her grades and social life in order to maintain their support of her transition. Through the rigors of squad training and amped up social pressures, not to mention microaggressions and other queer youth problems, the two girls rekindle a friendship they thought they'd lost and discover there may be other sweeter feelings springing up between them. So, very excited to see how this celebrates trans joy, and having another quick read and a graphic novel on my TBR is always a plus, because I love me some graphic novels. And yeah, very much looking forward to seeing what happens to Annie and BB in this one. So the next prompt is a bunch of question marks, and it means we got to create our own category. And for this, I went with middle grade, because I wanted to read Camp Quilt Bag by Nicole Melleby and AJ Sass. This was a pre-order. I'm very, very excited to get to this. I believe I've read Hurricane Season by Nicole Melleby. I think so. Yeah. It's actually behind me right here. And I really enjoyed that one. And I've read Anna on the Edge and Ellen Outside the Lines, I believe, by AJ Sass. They should both be here somewhere too. I think also behind me, which is not helpful. I don't think I can get to them without completely moving. But I've enjoyed all three of those books, and I am very, very excited to see what happens in this one. This cover also just is absolutely stunning. I love all of the bright, colorful colors, and I'm very, very excited to see what these two get up to at camp. The next prompt is M-Spec, which I believe is multiple gender spectrum. So you like multiple genders. And for this, I'm going to read Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. The description makes me think it is applicable. It says, Emmy Harlow is a witch, but not a very powerful one, in part because she hasn't been home to the magical town of Thistle Grove in years. Her self-imposed exile has a lot to do with a complicated family history and a desire to forge her own way in the world, and only the very tiniest bit to do with Gareth Blackmore, heir to the most powerful magical family in town and casual breaker of hearts and destroyer of dreams. But when a spellcasting tournament for her family serves as arbiters approaches, it turns out the pull of tradition, or the truly impressive parental guilt trip that comes with it, is strong enough to bring Emmy back. She's determined to do her familial duty, spend some quality time with her best friend Lyndon Thorne, and then get back to her real life in Chicago. On her first night home, Emmy runs into Talia Avramov, an all-around badass adept in the darker magical arts, who is fresh off a bad breakup with Gareth Blackmore. Talia had let herself be charmed, only to discover that Gareth was also seeing Lyndon, unbeknownst to either of them. And now she and Lyndon want revenge. Only one question stands. Is Emmy in? But most concerning of all, why can't Emmy stop thinking about the terrifyingly competent, devastatingly gorgeous, wickedly charming Talia Aramov? So the reason I think this counts is because I think Gareth appears to be male, meaning both Talia and Emmy, who I believe are both female, were into Gareth, but it certainly sounds like there's going to be a romance brewing between Emmy and Talia, which would be the M-Spec. So I believe this counts. I obviously won't know for certain 100% until I get into it, but the description made me think it was, so I'm going to give it a go, and if not, I will replace it with something throughout the month. So yeah, this is my choice for M-Spec. Then we had to complete the prompt history, and I chose The Queer Principles of Kit Webb. This was another one that was recommended by the spreadsheet, and it says, Kit Webb has left his stand-and-deliver adventures behind him, but dreary days at the coffee house have begun to make him pine for the heady rush of thievery. When a handsome yet arrogant aristocrat storms into the shop, Kit quickly realizes he may be unable to deny whatever this high-born man desires. In order to save himself and a beloved friend, Percy, Lord Holland must go against every gentlemanly behavior he holds dear to gain what he needs most. A book that once belonged to his mother, a book his father never lets out of his sight, and that could be Percy's salvation. More comfortable in silk-filled ballrooms than coffee houses frequented by criminals, Percy finds that his attempt to hire the roughly hewn highwayman, formerly known as Glad Hand Jack, prove equal parts frustrating and electrifying. Kit refuses to participate in the robbery, but agrees to teach Percy how to do the deed. Percy knows he has little choice but to submit, and as the lessons in thievery begin, he discovers theft isn't the only crime he's desperate to commit with Kit. But when their careful plan goes dangerously wrong and shocking revelations threaten to tear them apart, can these stolen hearts overcome the impediments in their path? So, romance, historical, very curious to see how this one kind of plays out. It sounded quite interesting when I read the description, so I thought I would stick it on here for history. Next up is Host Rec, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do for this, and then I was watching Kathy's TBR, and I'm choosing the same book Kathy did because she made it sound really good, and it is a Rachel rec, and that's Icebreaker by A.L. Graziati. And this book follows Mickey James III, who's a college freshman, a brother to 5 sisters, and a hockey legacy. His father and grandfather have gone down in NHL history, and he is almost guaranteed the league's top draft spot. The only person standing in his way is Jason Caulfield, a contender for the #1 spot and Mickey's infuriating and infuriatingly attractive teammate. When rivalry turns to something more, Mickey will have to decide what he really wants and what he's willing to risk for it. This is a story about falling in love, finding your team on and off the ice, and choosing your own path. Sounds like there's going to be a romance in here. Finding your team definitely sounds like maybe like a fine family vibe, which I absolutely love. And it sounded really interesting when Kathy talked about it, and obviously Rachel recommends it, so I'm going to see if I enjoy it too. Next, we needed to choose a memoir, and for this I'm going to read Welcome to St. Hel, My Trans Teen Misadventure by Lewis Hancock, and this is a graphic novel, and I love being able to read graphic novel memoirs. I think it's such a fun medium to tell your story in. And I'm assuming it is going to talk about Lewis Hancock's misadventures as a trans teen in high school. So very curious to see what Lewis's story is. Next, we need to read a book featuring crime, and I chose Aces Wild by Amanda DeWitt. Again, this is thanks to the spreadsheet, and it sounds like quite the interesting novel. Some people join chess club. Some people play football. Jack Shannon runs a secret blackjack ring in his private school's basement. What else is the son of a Las Vegas casino mogul supposed to do? Everything starts falling apart when Jack's mom is arrested for their family's ties to organized crime. His sister Beth thinks this is the Shannon family's chance to finally go straight, but Jack knows something's not right. His mom was sold out, and he knows by whom. Peter Carlvaro, rival casino owner and jilted lover. Gross. Jack hatches a plan to find out what Carlvaro's holding over his mom's head, but he can't do it alone. He recruits his closest friends, the asexual support group he met through fandom forums. Now all he has to do is infiltrate a high-stakes gambling club and dodge dark family secrets while hopelessly navigating what it means to be in love while asexual. Easy, right? Sounds absolutely brilliant, right up my alley as somebody who is ace. I love finding more books with ace rep, so very, very excited to be reading this one. Then we needed to read a book with Folklore, and this is another one I consulted the spreadsheet for. But interestingly enough, I owned a book on there, so I went with that one, and that's The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is obviously going to be a retelling of Achilles' story, and I had no idea that it was queer. So that worked out really, really well. It means I get to pull a book off of my TBR. I know I read another book by Madeline Miller. Circe, maybe? Was she who wrote Circe? I don't know. I feel like she's got a few that are kind of Greek mythology retellings, and I know whichever one I read, I didn't like. So I'm hoping I like this one better, and I was very excited to find a book on the spreadsheet that I owned that I had no idea was queer. So we shall see how this one goes. Then we need to continue a series or continue reading an author we love, and I'm going to do this by reading Dead in the Pond. This is the second book in this trilogy, and it follows Valor and Bish and their men who are in a relationship. Bish is autistic, and as somebody who's autistic, I love finding books with queer autistic rep as well. It is a cozy mystery series, and the first book ends on a giant cliffhanger. It's really like, from what I've read from some reviews, that the second book is also going to end on a cliffhanger. So it's really like one book split into 3 parts, or one story split into 3 parts. And I'm very, very excited to get back into things with Valor and Bish and see, what is going on with them and where this mystery progresses next. And I'm so glad that I was able to find a way to stick it on this TBR. Next, we need to read a book with a non-binary main character or author, and I chose A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in the A Monk and Robot series, and I really, really enjoyed the first one. Our main character is non-binary, and, well, I don't think robots have gender, so that kind of also counts. It is literally just a sweet story of a monk and a robot, and they're going on a journey. I would classify it as a cozy sci-fi, so love that I found a cozy sci-fi series, although I think there's only 2 in this. But absolutely love the cozy vibes of this series, and another one I was really glad I had an excuse to stick on my TBR. In that same vein of happy to have an excuse to stick a book on my TBR, the next prompt is intersectional, and for this I'm going to be reading Pickled Petunia, which is the 3rd book in the Mott's Cold Case mystery series. And this is intersectional because our main character, Mott's, is asexual and autistic, which means she's queer and neurodivergent. I have no idea what's going to be happening to Mott's in this one, but I'm very, very curious to find out. I've really enjoyed the first 2 books in this series, and like I said, it was the perfect excuse to stick this on my TBR. The next prompt is short stories, and this is where Rachel's TBR video came in really handy because she chose All Systems Red. which is the first book in the Murderbot Diaries series, and I hadn't even thought of reading this one. But it is a series I've heard nothing but brilliant things about, and I have absolutely wanted to get to. So when she brought up that she was going to be reading it for short stories, I went, oh, okay, well, I know what I'm reading now. Very, very excited to get to find out what Murderbot is all about, because like I said, I've heard nothing but brilliant things. Then we have to read a sapphic book, and for this, I'm going to read Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandria Bellafleur. This is the third book in this kind of companion novel series, and in this one, we're following Margot, and she's going to be kind of getting a second chance at a first love with Olivia. And I've enjoyed the first two books in this series, and I'm hoping that the third one will also continue the trend. I'm very, very picky with my romances, so we'll see. But like I said, I like the first two, so I can't imagine not enjoying the third one. And then the last and final prompt is Queer Friends. And I'm sure a lot of the books I've mentioned will have queer friends in them. But for this, I'm going to be specifically reading Magical Boy Volume 1. So this is a graphic novel, and it says, a heartbreakingly imaginative fantasy series starring Max, a high schooler chosen to become the next magical girl. There's just one catch. He's a trans boy. Although he was assigned female at birth, Max is your average trans boy trying to get through high school as himself. But on top of classes, crushes, and coming out, Max's life is turned upside down when his mom reveals an eons-old family secret. He's descended from a long line of magical girls tasked with defending humanity from a dark, ancient evil. With a sassy feline sidekick and a loyal gang of friends by his side, can Max take on his destiny, save the world, and become the first magical boy? Hilarious and heartfelt, Magical Boy is a one-of-kind fantasy series that comic readers of all ages will love. Sassy feline sidekick sounds right up my alley. Obviously a gang of friends and a graphic novel, which will hopefully help with this very large TBR, and it could be a new series to add to my series to continue, even though I really don't need more of those. So there you have it. That is my TBR for the Queer Lit Readathon. I am so incredibly excited to be participating. I have loved seeing all of the recommendations either on the spreadsheet or the story graph page, because I just am constantly looking for more book recs, and all of these sound like they're going to be really fun and really different. I feel like I picked quite an eclectic mix of books. So very excited to get to my TBR. So with that being said, that's my TBR. Are you guys participating? If so, what is the book you're most looking forward to checking out from your Queer Lit Readathon TBR? Let me know in the comment section below. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me pride flag emojis. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!